What's up, guys? This is Trailbound Chris. So the 2020 KTM 250 and 300 XCs have been released, and they're coming in a TPI model. We'll talk about some of the new features and why some people are kind of backlashing against it. Alright, so I've had a lot of 250 XCs. I had a 2016 250 XC. This is my 2017 250 XC. And now I've got this 2019 250 XC. So this one's got 300 hours on it. This one's got 40 hours on it. Still freshy. And I keep going with the XCs because I really like the linkage on them. I like the air forks. They're lighter, they're more snappy, and just all around I feel like it's a better bike. You get some nicer features like the aluminum machined and anodized triple clamps, kind of a more snappy CDI box. It's just a bike that I've kind of stuck to. It's 2019 right now. When I went in to buy this bike, I could have got the XCW as a TPI model, but I chose to go with the carbureted one. I wanted something that was going to be reliable, something I could fix on the trail. I could take apart. I could take apart the carb on the trail and blow it out. Not a lot of electrical stuff. The TPI was actually only like $300 more, but it was the XCW. It's not the XC. The XCs are always more expensive because it has kind of the better components on it. But you know, there's ups and downs for it. But with the new announcement of the 2020s, it looks like TPI has finally come to the XCs, both the 250 and the 300. However, I'm not sure if that's an option or not. I think with the XCWs, you could still get a carb version of that. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But as far as I know, these XCs are only going to be in a TPI. They didn't mention anything about a carbureted option. So I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to move to the TPI, but that's what it is so far. So on our Instagram at Trailbound Co, we did a post, and it's up to like 150 comments already. It's only been up for a couple hours, and I just kind of wanted to go through some of the different things that people were talking about. I want to talk about some of my thoughts, some of the different discussions that have come up in the Instagram. So yeah, let's get into it. So one cool thing that I noticed on the 2020s is that the pipe has a cool looking corrugated surface right around this area and then underneath, and it kind of looks like they made it like thicker, or they kind of put some sort of like engineered, I don't know, press out points to make it less prone to denting. As you can see here on this pipe, get a lot of dents down low if you're not careful. But that seems like a pretty cool feature. I know the stock pipes are always super thin. They're like tin cans, so hopefully adding some mass to those prone spots will make it last a little bit longer before you get to upgrade to the FMF gnarly or factory fatty, which are both awesome pipes and quite a bit thicker. They'll last a lot longer, less prone to putting holes in them. So the big thing that has come up is that, of course, they put the TPI in, but because they put that in, I don't know why, but they took out the kickstart. The kickstarts were available in the 17s and 18 TPIs, but with this the XC version, it looks like there's no kickstart, which is kind of a deal breaker for us hard enduro guys. On this bike, on my 2017, the battery shot on this thing. It's at 300 hours. It won't hold the charge any longer, and that's because we run the fans. As you can see, the Trailtech fan, this is the best one because you can set the temperature. I have the temperature set to 195 degrees. That's the hottest it'll let you go. So the bike has to heat up that high before the fan turns on. And even at that high of a temp, you're still risking draining your battery because the battery will run after the motor shuts off. And that's what happened to this battery. It won't hold a charge anymore because it died so many times in that super nasty stuff with the fans constantly running, constantly overheating. But I would definitely run a fan on these bikes. It's so crucial. One thing that you could do is you could add a You could upgrade your stator, which will help hold the charge better. And another thing I know some of the hard enduro pros do is they put a switch where they can turn the fan on before they get into the nasty stuff to start cooling the bike, and they can also turn it off when they're just like resting, and the motor's turned off, so you're not wasting the battery juice there. With these bikes, I always start in the morning by kickstarting it, because otherwise you're just pressing the button, holding it for a really long time, putting a lot of stress on that starter motor and your battery, and otherwise you can just kick it in one kick. But without it, that would be kind of annoying to just kind of wind on your motor like that. Some guys up in Canada left a comment saying that the TPIs that they run, they do have to kick them in the morning when it's cold. They say from the factory they're pretty lean, so they need that kickstart. So I know they're really upset about not having a kickstart on these 2020s. So I kind of put out a question saying, if the battery dies, can you still bump start this bike? And what I had heard is that some guys with their 18 TPIs, they took the battery out and they couldn't start the bike. I don't know firsthand. If you guys know, let me know in the comments. But if that's the case, so you would need a little bit of juice even if you had a kickstart option. So that's one thing to think about. So it looks like it would be pretty easy to add a kickstart option to this bike, but that's going to run you like $250 to $400. I'm not quite sure, but it seems like you can still be able to do that until they start phasing it out. Sort of like what they did with the 4-strokes. They made it a bolt-on option, and then later on they just phased it out, and now you can't even put a kickstart on them. That's pretty annoying. That's another thing you have to add to your bike when you pick up these bikes. They say they're race ready, but they're actually not really enduro ready. You got to add like $2,000 worth of accessories to it to kind of get it up to par. This is another thing you're gonna have to add to that Kickstarter. Is so crucial for what we do. When you can't bump start it when you're going uphill on rocks, you're kind of screwed. Riding trials, riding boulders, it's kind of hairy. You kind of need a kickstart, guys. The real reason why they got rid of that kickstart, it's probably to save money, and more likely it's to save weight. But since they took the kickstart off, their weight between this non-TPI and a TPI is just about the same. So I pulled up some numbers. The dry weight of the 2020 250 and 300 XC is 223 pounds. The 2019 250 XC is 222 pounds. So that's only 1 pound lighter between a carbureted and a non-carbureted. The 2019 250 XCW TPIs was 227 pounds. So that's 3 pounds heavier than what this XC 2020 TPI would be. So those are all dry weights. Keep that in mind. If you want to know some of the wet weights, Dirtbike channel does a good job at documenting that. They have photos on their website of the scales, and they've done some videos. So just to give you an idea, the dry weight of a 2019 250 XC is 222 pounds, whereas the wet weight from Dirtbike channel says the 250 XC is 236 pounds. So the 2019 300 XCW TPI was 242.5 pounds, and that's the wet weight. So I'll leave links to those in the description if you want to check that out for the weights. So the older TPIs I've heard were not very snappy. They weren't very aggressive, but KTM heard from the riders and from the public, and they started to make it more aggressive, more like a 2-stroke. Now, when we get to these 2020, the XC versions, they're probably going to be quite a bit snappier. The XC, I would say, is closer to the SX in the snappiness and the aggressiveness, versus like an XCW is a little bit more tamer. So having the TPI as the XC will be pretty nice. You'll still have that kind of aggressive 2-stroke feel, as far as I know. So maybe you won't have to do that expensive Slavens upgrade to like the ECU unit and all those different types of things that go on. So that's my thoughts on the 2020 250 300 XC TPI. So I'd be curious to hear what you guys think about these TPIs, these new 2020 TPIs. Is this something you guys would purchase? If not, why? If so, why? You can jump in the discussion on our Instagram at Trailbound Co. There's already a lot of great content in there that you guys can read through and add your opinions. We can get some discussion going in the YouTube down below. So hope to hear from you guys. Thanks for checking out this video. We'll see you guys out on the trail.